What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 7th studio album by the rock band Good Charlotte. This one is titled Generation RX. Good Charlotte recently released a new album in 2016 titled Youth Authority that had been their first in 6 years. Yes, I am a cardiology defender. I actually love that record, surprisingly. I know a lot of people hate it. It's standing at a 50 out of 100 on Metacritic, but whatever. I loved it. Maybe it was made just for me. The next record, Youth Authority, didn't exactly sway my opinions positively. I found the record to be pretty tedious, kind of laughable at some points, and just a little all over the place. It didn't have really the depth or even really the musicianship that I was looking for. This new material I found to be a little bit more exciting, at least in terms of the singles we were getting off of Generation RX. I heard Self-Help and also Shadowboxer, and the latter of those I felt particularly drawn to. I found it to be a very interesting and just well-penned song for what it is. The whole thing about this album, Generation RX, was inspired after Little Peep passed away and just the opioid addiction that's facing America. It's something where we see people every day, whether they be famous or not. Everybody from Mac Miller to maybe somebody in your family is being stolen due to the opioid and drug crisis. And that inspired Good Charlotte, and I think that that is a good enough anger that is pent up in them to actually justify making a record. Albeit a little bit short, still it's justified. There's a harder leaning sound to this record that I just didn't see coming. The drums really stood out to me in particular. I feel like they're firing on all cylinders, and even some of the guitar performances, the way that they mesh up with some of the synthesizers and electronics that are thrown in, and then the screamed vocals that occasionally flare up from the Maddens. I feel like that is absolutely a nice touch that I just wouldn't have expected from Good Charlotte in 2018. What's working for this record is the fact that its convictions and its heart actually feels real. And even though I'm not totally won over, in fact, some of the tracks like Cold Song definitely feel super cheesy to me, I can also see and understand that some of the other cuts outside of Cold Song, like Shadowboxer, Self-Help, or even Better Demons, have a message that maybe I don't need to hear at this point in my life, but I look back and I hear Linkin Park influences in the sound, and I can see 13-year-old me, and I was clinging to life for Linkin Park's music, Good Charlotte, and other bands like that. So I can appreciate with not only Good Charlotte that there is a message there, other bands too, that maybe isn't for me, but I respect that it's maybe done well for somebody younger who does need to hear it. The songs definitely settle into their grooves too, and that's always a huge plus. There is that fluff and that filler and that lack of depth in places that I find it a little bit hard to circumvent personally, but I could definitely see why a lot of people would probably like this and call it their best record in a while. I think I would too. The themes of mental warfare, not being accepted, even immigration, and other issues that are plaguing our country right now are tackled or at least mentioned on Generation RX. Obviously, the opioid crisis. And like I was kind of saying before, I don't feel like Madden often dives in deep enough. At least on some of these, it feels like he's just kind of standing about ankle deep in the water. There's a few moments that do go for it. I like the fact that Prayers has some head on the nails, actual addressing of issues, and I think that that song, despite having a little bit of a cheesy sing-along styled chorus, actually has a good effect and impact. I can definitely see that in other cuts on the record too. I think that Self-Help, and really right after that Shadowboxer as well, have a nice vibe to them. They start off with a little bit more of an electronic swell before breaking into it, and Shadowboxer in particular I found to be super effective in the sense that it lingers with me, and it's been staying with me ever since I played it for the first time. I expected a little bit more from the Sam Carter feature on Leech, but still overall I think this is one of the best tracks on the LP. I can definitely sense some desperation, but also frustration in the lyrical content, and the way that it's put across, it actually feels pretty poignant, even if the collab wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. One problem I do have with the track list is that it's only 9 songs, 8 if you don't count the instrumental, at least mainly instrumental other than a few spotty vocals, intro, Generation RX, the title track. It's something that does serve as a nice little catapult into self-love, but overall, this is only a 31 song, 9-minute album, and I think a lot of fans, including myself, were expecting a little bit more. Short, compact albums are absolutely fine if it feels like it got the job done, but overall, I just feel hungry after listening to Generation RX. I feel like we were on the cusp of something, but they didn't finish the writing sessions, and that's a little bit frustrating. However, the album does close on a nice moment, California, the Way I Say I Love You. It does take a little bit to get going, which is a trend that does follow this album as it goes. It's like it takes a little bit for everything to start pumping and all of the engines to start turning over. And on California, I don't really care for the first minute or so, but once the acoustic guitars, the chorus, and the kind of sentimental love message in the track, it's good-hearted, and that's really all I could ask for. It reminds me of some of the old Good Charlotte in a very good way. Generation RX has a good heart. It has good intentions labeled all over it. It's a most definite step up from Youth Authority, which I found to be pretty bad, and this one, although I don't know how long of a shelf life it's gonna have, I don't know about the replayability, I don't see that happening outside of a few tracks. Still, going down, taking this in, it's not a bad listen. I do recommend it if you're into Good Charlotte, or if you like harder rock and also electronic rock and some alternative. There's definitely some harder vibes and some softer ones mixed together. It's a nice little melting pot. I originally was thinking 3.5, but I'm gonna go on the safe side here and rate this a 3 out of 5. A strong one at that. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. There is a link to stream the album for yourself. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're able to, please support me on Patreon at the top link in the description. You can go directly to my Patreon page by tapping this annotation in the corner of the screen. If you would like to see another Good Charlotte review, then tap right over here. See a recent top 10 that I made by tapping right over here, or connect with me on social media by clicking any of these links that you see here in the description down below. I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.